Hello, it's Lynn Watts here with Wyeth Wonder Dog Books, and today I want to tell you about one of the lessons in my newest book, which is called the Elementary School Counselor's Book of Lesson Plans, Volume 2. I'm trying to get a better picture of it there. I do have another book with the same title, but it is my first lesson plan book, similar to this one, and this one is brand new, all new lessons, and very much dated with lots of great things going on in it. So let me just share with you one of the lessons that you can find in this book. And before I do that, let me just say the way the book is laid out is according to a calendar, which you can find in the very beginning of the book. And it's called the Lesson Plan Calendar right here. And so it's divided up into months. Since schools may start in August or September, so it varies. But in your first month, I suggest some lessons that you might do there, and then in your second month, and so on, and all the way through the entire school year. So each month has a couple of lessons that you can do, and in addition, each one of the lessons is adapted to all 5K through 5. So the concepts, you can, of course, select which ones you think are how deep you want to go, in other words. So the lesson plan, for instance, today that I'm going to talk about is friendship. And who doesn't do a lesson on friendship at some point during the year, but often early on in the year to help students with making friends and to sort of ensure that they are developing some good social skills and really know how to make friends and then how to be a good friend. So this particular lesson is called The Heart of Friendship, Nurturing Empathy. And so there is some talk about empathy, what that is, and helping kids understand empathy in here. Each one of the lessons starts out with a lot of just general information for you so that you have some idea of the whole concept, where to go with it, what you might want to talk about. And this particular one has 5 different ways that we can encourage empathy with students. So once you get into the actual lesson, each one of the lessons is laid out similar to this. I'll kind of show you the page. Each one of them has the ASCA standards and objectives in it. There's some essential questions that you might want to ask and talk about, such as what are characteristics of a good friend? How can I be a good friend? There are, in this particular one, 5 different picture books. You could pick one that you think is appropriate for the classroom that you're about to talk to. There's a closing activity, so something that you can do and say to help students really summarize the concepts you just talked about and make them really applicable to their life. There is an intro as well, and in it talks about, again, some questions you want to ask and the importance. What's the importance of this lesson? What is it you really want to be sure and get across? Then there's a list of materials that you would need for any of the activities, and then the activities are divided up into, and this particular one has 3 activities for K through 3 and 2 activities for K through 2 through 5. All right. So you can divide them up something like that most of the time. And you don't have to do the same activity, obviously, for kindergarten, first and second. There's 3 different activities here. Pick which one you feel is appropriate for kindergarten and so on. So you have a lot of flexibility and a lot of choices, which I think is really helpful. So one of the activities that I thought I would highlight that is in here is a positive and negative statement worksheet. So there's one for the lower grades, there's one for upper grades. I'll talk about some of the things that are in the worksheet for grades 3 through 5. So here's the thing. You could potentially use it as a worksheet. You also, if you wanted, could just make a copy of the one sheet. Then you could cut each of the statements up. There's 15 of them. You could cut them up and put them in a basket. You can have students draw one out, and then they could talk about whether it's positive or negative. They could talk about a situation. You could have them role play it, and you could have the students in the classroom vote on the statement, whether it's positive. There are so many things that you could potentially do with it. So just to give you an example, do you want to join our game? Positive or negative? Your shoes are weird, positive or negative, all right? You always mess things up, positive or negative. So I think, they're pretty obvious, but the point is that we need to make them obvious to students and help them begin thinking about how much their words matter, and how people feel when they hear those words, and so on. So there's a lot of different possibilities here just in this lesson. Each one of the lessons has a page called a reflection journal. So if you're someone who likes to use a lesson and have kids journal about it, upper grades, obviously, there are a couple of starters to get kids thinking. This particular one says, for instance, reflect on a time when someone said something nice to you and how it made you feel. List ways you can commit to using positive language and being kind to others. All right. So there is a journal page for each one of the lessons. And then finally, there's a review and reflect page for each one of the lessons as well. And this particular one says, name one new thing you learned about making friends. All of them generally have a scale, 1 to 5. This particular one says, how good are you at making friends usually? And you could circle, anywhere on the scale, 1 to 5, and there's a place to write about that. And then finally, write or draw one way you'll practice being a good friend this week. So as you plan a lesson, there's a lot of things you can choose from. And all you have to do is say, I want to make a lesson or do a lesson on friends. I want to focus on how friends interact, empathy, how kids feel. And then you can look through here and select the parts of the lesson that you want to use. And in addition, a lot of times people say, so how long does it take to do the lesson? I think the important thing is, how long do you have? And so if you have 15 minutes, then pick out enough in here that you can use in 15 minutes. You have 30, 45 minutes. You decide, but you have flexibility and you have plenty of choices. So again, this is the Elementary School Counselor's Book of Lesson Plans, Volume 2. Be sure and get Volume 2. And you can find it on Amazon. So thanks as always for listening, and thanks for all you do to benefit children.